Good morning. My name is Kent Phillips, the Connections Minister at Mount Gilead. It has been a few days since I've done one of these daily devotionals, and I've honestly missed connecting with you all. I've kind of missed starting my morning with you all. Hey, good morning, Dave. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for joining. This morning I am out. My family has some property in Nashville, and so the family and we are relaxing down here. My brother and sister-in-law and my nieces and nephews are down here, so we're getting some good time just to connect and have some community. There is also the neighbor's dog, Ella, is a beautiful chocolate lab that comes over and stays the entire time we're down here. The dog has adopted us, and it may not stop wanting me to throw the ball this morning. But this morning, what I want to talk with you about, what I want to share with you all is the expression Jesus said 3 times in the New Testament, the Son of Man came. And then he finished that sentence. Now, the term, the Son of Man, is an interesting term that we see in Daniel, and it's often referring to a conquering, the returning hero. The Jewish people, when they understood the term Son of Man, it would have been linked to Messiah, and they would have thought, general, military leader that was coming to squash their enemies and raise Israel up as the most powerful and respected nation. Hey, good morning, Nancy. Thank you so much for tuning in. So that term, there would have been a working understanding of the Son of Man. So when Jesus starts to refer to himself as the Son of Man, there would have been a whole bunch of preconceived notions about what that meant. And likewise, I think sometimes we bring a whole lot of preconceived notions to our faith in many ways as well, and we'll talk about that. But Jesus says the Son of Man came 3 times. And I want to talk about that this morning because I believe by diving in and really looking at what he says, it just gives us a clear picture of how we are called to live our life. And if we're to be a reflection of Jesus, to be a reflection of the Son of Man, these are 3 key things that we have to work into our lives so that the world will see Jesus through us. So the first thing I want to talk about towards the end of Mark's Gospel, the biography about Jesus' life written by someone named Mark, there's this moment in chapter 10, verse 45. Right before this, it says that James and John ask Jesus, they say, Jesus, will you do us a favor? And Jesus says, brilliantly, not committing to anything until he gets more information, says, what is it that you want? And they say, 2 of Jesus' apostles say, when you are ruling, so they think Son of Man, when you are ruling and in charge, can we sit at your left and your right in the places of honor? So it's amazing in the midst of seeing what Jesus is doing and how he has loved and cared for and served people up to this point. James and John say, Jesus, they kind of sneak around the other disciples and say, when you become the powerful king and ruler, can we be on your left and your right? Can we be your second in command? And this is an instance where Jesus uses this expression, and he completes that sentence, the Son of Man came. And this is what Jesus says. He says, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. And so that's so profound because you have these followers of Jesus who had been living life with him for a number of years now, who come to him and say, we want to receive power and status and prestige as a result of following you. And Jesus reminds them, the Son of Man, it says in Mark 10:45, came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. Now, that's a challenge because oftentimes I think it's easy for us to use our faith or position or to aspire to be respected and have some sort of benefit from our life with Jesus and our Christianity. And what Jesus is saying here is, I am here to serve others. And in turn, we are here to serve others. So that first statement is Jesus came not to be served, but to serve others and give his life as a ransom for many. And that's a challenge for us. That second time Jesus uses the words Jesus came, he uses it two more times in Luke's gospel. And Luke's gospel, I love the writing of Luke, because Luke's a historian and he was a doctor, and he just writes in a very researched, kind of scholarly type way, which I love reading and engaging. But this second time I want to talk about of Jesus using that expression, and by the way, these are direct quotes of Jesus talking about himself, all three of these Jesus came expressions. But the second one I want to talk to you about is at the end of Luke, in chapter 19, in verse 10, it says, and a little preface for this is right after the Zacchaeus story, if you're familiar with that. Zacchaeus was a wee little man. Zacchaeus was trying to fight through the crowds to see Jesus. Matter of fact, it was the people who were pursuing Jesus that were actually keeping Zacchaeus for a lot of different reasons, but they were keeping him away from being able to interact with Jesus. And that in itself, honestly, for me and for all followers of Jesus, is a reminder that in our pursuit of what we think God wants, or what we're doing to connect with Christ, we need to be aware that we're not excluding others and preventing others. But after Jesus interacts with Zacchaeus, he says, the Son of Man came to seek and save that which is lost. That's a clear mission statement for his life and for our life. So the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. And the Son of Man came to seek and save that which is lost. Those are powerful calls to action for my life, for our life. But the third statement, which I think is profound, and that I think we often miss as we are trying to do the other things we believe Jesus has called us to do, is that the third one actually comes earlier at the beginning of Luke's gospel, when he is beginning to describe Jesus' ministry and what was happening. And Jesus says, in reference to being called out for the way he is interacting and the way he does ministry, it says, the Son of Man came eating and drinking. Now think about that. Think about that statement. If there are three statements where Jesus says about himself, his mission, what he's doing, this third one is him saying how he's doing what he's doing. So the Son of Man came eating and drinking. And it's important to not miss that, especially if you read the Gospel of Luke. Some writers have said this is the food gospel, because all throughout Luke, Jesus is either in a meal, going to a meal, or just leaving a meal, because they realize that the way in which Jesus connected with people, the way in which Jesus sought those who were lost, the way in which Jesus served others, was he sat down with them. Jesus gave of his life ultimately on the cross, but before that, Jesus gave of his time and his personality, because he sat down and he connected with people over long, slow meals, where he asked questions about them, and he added value to their life by sitting and inviting them into his presence. Now, I don't know about you, but I think sometimes it's easy to miss the simple stuff. It's easy to miss that the way Jesus did his ministry. Every interaction was important to Jesus. Every meal was an opportunity to allow someone to know that they have value, to hear someone else's story and to invite them into our story, and ultimately for those of us who are followers of Jesus, to invite them into Christ's story. You know, during this time that we're in right now, this moment in history, people are opening up like never before to sit down and engage with those in their neighborhoods and community. I have got to know my neighbors so much more during this time. And a matter of fact, the other evening, we just put lawn chairs in our front yard, and we had some neighbors that were getting to know to come over, and we just talked for hours, and we got to know more of their story. They, who are not followers of Jesus, was asking deep questions about why we follow Jesus and why I'm a minister. And that's a direct result of just sitting down and being present with someone else. So my challenge for myself and for you guys today is to think about those three statements. If only three times we see in the Gospels, Jesus says and gives a clear answer to the Jesus came statement, let's strive to be people that follow Jesus and show our love for Jesus and others by striving to be people who serve and don't look to be served, for striving to be people who have eyes to see that others are valuable, and those who are lost, and those who are hurting, and those who are marginalized, those are the people we want at our table. And the challenge is, let's find a way to invite people. Put that lawn chair out in your front yard this week or over the next couple of weeks. Text a neighbor, invite a neighbor, and say, hey, would you just come over for a glass of tea or a glass of coffee or whatever that is, and just be the hands and feet of Jesus this week. I love you guys. It's so good to see all the names of everybody on here. Dave Thazier, Sonia, Tammy, Laura. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining me. One last thing. I'll end this with a quick book recommendation. While you're sitting on your chair in your front yard this summer, short book. It's called A Meal with Jesus by Tim Chester. This is a great book that really explores how Jesus intentionally used meals and time around the table to serve others and to help people feel their value. So, love you guys. Have a great day. Talk to you later.